Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Transfer Market Metrics. As some deals get closer, very close, we're here to talk about a few other ones, a few other links to see if they're not going to happen at this time because of transfer window 1 shutting, but will they come up in transfer window 2? Let's call it that. So I'm joined as ever by Bart, who's about to run us through 3 very specific players, 3 recent players that we've heard at the same time as well. And Bart, to give a feel for it, these 3 players, how are you feeling about them?
I think one of them, stopgap's a bit harsh, but I think one of them you could see would do what we needed to do and is more reliable than one of the current incumbents, should we say, right?
Okay.
Another one is is a bit of a flavour of the month, but I think as you and I have chatted, it could be a bit of a stats padder, and I think there's some red flags in the ground already from other experience. And the other one it could be a project, but an interesting one. So yeah, that's probably my first off. I think one of them. Okay, I'm not unhappy. I think it's like like if you offer someone a Porsche, but actually let's go with a better analogy. Let's go with something like you offer someone an Audi, right? But actually, what you end up getting is a Seat, right? It's the same car. It's got a different body, same company. But that's potentially what I'm saying. The one we're looking at today could be the Seat after we've been looking at the Audi. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, one sounds better than the other as well, doesn't it, in that regard? So we'll see if this bears through. Now, we'll go through them. You know how we do one by one, ladies and gents. The players, the minutes, the focus on the match, the key stats to call out, and what the profiles look like. So we'll get into our first one. And this is a name that's come up quite recently, Bart. Sam Maguire had the exclusive, didn't he, that Liverpool has spoken to Jorge Mendes, the well-known agent, is one of his clients, Gonçalo Ramos, the Portuguese international forward at PSG, where it's fair to say he has not been in favour this year. However, it could be one, as some are referring to it, as a Moneyball signing, which is about value. And we'll talk about the striker market because it's important as we're doing this after we've run the initial stats. But 23 years old, not played too many minutes this season. I am intrigued to see what do the stats say about Ramos.
Yeah, I think this is what I was saying about if you've been offered something, you end up with this, but it's still fundamentally not a bad motor, right? So I think that's what I think for some of this. I think it will come through. His minutes this season, these are just league minutes, by the way, but they're not. Yeah, they're not amazing. Like, he's clearly been second or third, fourth fiddle, if you like, in their bunch. But because they've gone with a more dynamic front three, Dembele's done amazing in the floating 9. Then they've had rotations in the left and right. I think the lad that we missed out of coming in from Napoli in January added more quality to that mix. So therefore, you move Ramos further down the list. So I think there's mitigation of why his minutes. I mean, even last season, though, he was only about 1,400 in the league. So that's nowhere near the minutes that our forwards play. Yeah, so that's something to put out there straight away. But if we go through things as we normally do, and we go, right, well, how has he actually performed when he's been on the pitch? And his team's PSG have been positive when he's been on the pitch, which is always a good sign. He has a positive impact on the team. If we break that down, I'll probably get that through XG in a bit. Yeah, so XG. So a little bit of a difference there, but in terms of the overall positive has been good for him. There are some other bits and bobs to pick out. If we do these per 90, his goals and assists together are 1.1. We do expected goals and assists 1.33, or non-penalty 0.95. So that's some good underlying numbers, right? But you do sometimes see this with low minute players in a good side, right? It wasn't that long ago that Harvey had amazing assist data, and he didn't play a lot for us because when he did come on, it was broken game. Often he's come on against not 10 men a couple of times, and he created a couple of goal scoring opportunities, and we scored, right? So you skew data in that way. So I'm not saying this kid is bad, by the way. I'm just saying sometimes with lower level data, lower minute data, you have to kind of take a little bit of a caveat here and there. But he does look like he is traditionally goals and assists, expected goals and assists has been about 0.8, 0.7, 1.5. So the assists less so, but on a combined ratio, they're fairly high consistently over a 3 year period, even coming from Benfica. So he's actually from Benfica, he was 0.9, and he's pretty much continued that upward trend when he's gone to PSG. As you would expect, they're an extremely dominant team in a weaker league, right? I think you and I looked up, was it about, I can't remember what the conversion rate is, but it's one of the lowest in Europe in terms of someone moving from European league to the Premier League, right? Whereas Buddy is about 0.84 or 0.82, and Portugal is 0.82. So the Liga is a little bit less than that. So that's it. I think there are some things I like about him. All right, let's be honest here, but it's low minutes, so it'd be hard. He would need to upscale that to play for us considerably from 1,000. We're talking 3,000 minimum, right? So that's just something to know. And that you can't just switch on because he's not done that level of minutes for so we'd be asking 3 seasons, the third season time after 2 seasons of low minutes. That can take a bit of time, right? You have to build that up, otherwise he could be susceptible to injuries. So if you look at our usuals from him, now he puts a lot of tackles in for forwards. Okay, great, but that's not necessarily what we want to see. We want to see interceptions. We want to see blocks. Okay, and he's in the lower percentiles for those around the 25th or 17th. Area was 50th, so that's give or take, probably in and around Nunes, to be fair, defensively that is. If you look at what does he do between the boxes, his touches in the attacking penalty box is 98th percentile. So I shouldn't need to explain to you what that means, but that basically means he likes to be in the opposition box, right? Yeah. So that's fine. If you want your 9 to do that, he's your man. Take-ons doesn't take players on, 2nd percentile. Progressive passes received is only 41st percentile. Just to caveat that, if you watched any of PSG's games, apart from against us, they generally condense play into the opposition half, right? So it's very difficult to move that ball over 20% or 25 yards into a player to be progressive when you're set up to play in one half of the game, right? You saw a Champions League final. As soon as they got a goal ahead, they basically went on the halfway line and went, go on then. And they just kept pinned in, and eventually the pressure told and they scored a goal. So that might look bad, but it's quite difficult to do in the way that PSG play. Carries, he's not a carrier by this. Progressive carries, he's not a carrier. Progressive passes doesn't make them really 60th percentile. It's not bad, but it's not in it. It's not green, should we say? Pass completion though, good, 91st percentile. That's we want our local players need to pass the football, but he doesn't attempt that many passes, so he's below 50th percentile for passing the football. Okay, so he sort of receives it in the box, and then it will do something with it in the box. Seems to be from me looking at some of that. If we look at those box metrics, shot creating actions, 77th percentile, but that is the lowest out of all of them. Yeah, it's got non-penalty goals, 95th percentile. Non-penalty XG, 99th percentile. Shots total, 4.3, nearly 4.5 shots a game, 98th percentile, right? Assists, 89th percentile. Non-penalty XG and assists, 91st percentile. So, I say 99th percentile. So, there are some really good stats there, right? But, as I said, low numbers, so they can get skewed by him coming on against a lower level team and getting a hat-trick or, doing multiple things. So, as we normally do, if we look at it compared to the incumbent who is potentially going, or whatever we say, right? Jota is the 9 that is probably going to be replaced. And I don't know about you, but I think there's a lot of similarities in their profile there. There's some differences, But attacking wise, yeah, they all stick out. Jota and Ramos is better than Jota in all the attacking side of things. Jota's had a fairly poor season, I would suggest, from the injury guy. Never really recovered, did he? So half the season he's not been great. Jota is better in terms of the between box stuff, which we know that he drops deep, receives, can carry it, do all the take-ons, and that's kind of why we love Jota as well. He's a bit of a hustle bustle kind of player. Ramos is better in terms of aerials and dribbles, but Jota is better at defensive stuff that we want, which is tackles and interceptions, right, and blocks. Because he's been in that Liverpool system for a while as a forward, he knows where he's got to go and the triggers he's got to do. So yeah, you can see there are some familiarities, but there are some also improvements. One of the biggest drawbacks of Jota is actually his passing rate is really not great for a Liverpool player, and Ramos certainly outperforms him there. You asked me to look a bit more about breakdown of players a little bit when we were chatting.
Yeah.
I thought, well, here's a little breakdown of his left foot, right shot, headers, shots. So this is this season just gone. He's taken 22 shots with his right, 19 headers, 13 with his left foot, and other body part, which always makes me laugh. But anyway, it's just one of those. Just childish, I don't. It's just one of them. You look at his goals. He scored 6 with his right, 1 with his head, and 3 for his left foot. So he basically scoring double what he would do with his right versus his left. Key passes, made 10 with his right and 5 with his left. So again, double in terms of the assists as well. So yeah, some interesting breakdown for him. And if you look at his career as a whole, for 2 seasons of PSG, that fairly well bears out. He's probably 40 on his right, left foot, not afraid to use it. Not afraid to use his head either. So between his header and left foot ability are about the same, but he's always a right-footed striker if he's going to take that on board. So yeah, just some context maybe of what you're looking for. In terms of, as we normally do, with a bit of a looking at dashboards and where he is and what's his link-up play, we've already kind of established he doesn't really do a lot of the link-up stuff, right? So he's not going to appear in zone 14 and half spaces. And that's not dismiss him, but just looking at his data from F-Brief, you pick a game, he's not going to give you that, right? And that also shows you in his involvement, So this indicates how many touches, passes, shots he has by minute, and he sort of has a purple patches, nothing for about 15 minutes, then a few little touches, then nothing, which is an indication of that patterns of play, all right? Whereas he's fairly well connected. I mean, you expect to be a bit more, but he doesn't really occupy the areas we would want. If you're looking to move on from Jota, who drops in maybe a bit too deep, you want a 9 who's not offering you anything else apart from goal scoring. You don't really want him receiving the ball here. You want him to be a bit further up. If we look to some of his other bits and bobs, he is bang on the money for his whack and wheel on in this game in his shots, and aerials 1, and everything else is bang on the money for his position. So he didn't exceed any of the metrics, okay? Which is, I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying he didn't exceed anything. Percentage of team EPV, so how much threat did he create in this particular game? 1.3. Again, that's not a shock. If you looked at the F-Brief, that's not what he does, okay? XG, though, 0.51. Of 3 shots. So that gives you the indication of what he does. Takes a shot on, right? If we look at where he took his shots, this is something to like between the 2 posts.
Mistakes,
Right, 3 shots, all between the 2 posts, 1 out wide, but 2 between the 2 posts. Average XG per shot is 0.17, which is just below a big chance per shot, which is big chance is roughly around 0.2. So that is some interesting things there. Off the ball, not really going to give you anything, I'm afraid. And threat as well. What did he do in terms of helping out? He only won 57% of the duels he faced in terms of threats. We didn't do a lot of the prevention of the threat around him, which, if you look at Barcola, who's caught the limelight, a lot of people love him this season. He's 100% in this game. So, but again, you would have seen that in some of the F-Brief stuff. he's not showing up in those metrics. And if you pick the games, he's just not there. So yeah, but attacking wise, certainly some things to like. And I do like I don't know about you, but I like a striker that just shoots in between the sticks. I watched something with Ancelotti talking to the Everton lad about. First thing he said to him was, "I want you to one-touch finish in between the sticks. That's what I want you to do." And there's a lot to be said about that for a forward.
Which is interesting. And I suppose the real question that it's shaped, because people will look at that and they can get it out the system. And apologies, the chat panel's not fully functioning tonight, but they can get out the system in terms of he's not a starter for PSG, his limited minutes. People might also flag the part that he had a bit of an injury this season, so he missed sort of the start till November and he came back. So that's his only real major injury for a short career, but people might flag that. However, on this part, this is, again, doing a bit of digging and speaking to the analysts around this, that there's a few people are quoting right now, and we spoke about this before, the striker market is pretty crap right now in terms of the value you're getting against the prices quoted. And we've talked about this, that you're being asked for 150-ish for Isaacs, not far off for Alvarez, Ekitike, 100 million euros. So translating at 80-odd million quid. It's even Sesko now at 80 to 90 million euros. So around the 70 million quid mark. And that's for a project forward, isn't it? So that comes into the mix as well. The thing about this player, Ramos, Mendes client, we get on well with Mendes, as we know. Clearly not in favour at PSG, looking to move on this summer. I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. There is a suggestion that for this player, PSG might even just almost take their money back. So around 65 million euros it was all in. So around 55 million quid right now, which in an attacking market where Sesko is being valued at around 70 million or more, do you think that element of Moneyball might come into it? As in, this player could just be the player between the sticks. As in, and I'm preempting and touch wood on this, that if Salah and Wirtz are creating, you might just want a 9 who can do the business between the sticks and get you a few goals that way as another forward option at around 55 million. What would that say to you?
I'd say, I was just looking at whether he'd overperformed his XG, because I know we were critical of other players like that. He scored 6 this season. He scored 16 this season from 10. So yeah, probably a slight performance. But 6 goal performance, but better than being the other way with some of the other lads. I think for that price point, and if you are not looking, like I said, stopgap, right? I think that isn't a bad price for a stopgap, because I think they clearly identified they need to improve that area, right?
Yeah.
But if they can't get the top, I would be happier we don't go into the season not doing anything, because I think what we currently got isn't what he wants, right? So if you're going to get this player for about 55, 50 million, I think that's not a bad stopgap to have, because you could almost do what PSG are doing now in a few years' time. If he plays well for us, you could flip him, couldn't you? And then you're not losing any money on him, and we would get one with the agents, so we could probably get favourable terms in terms of how we structure the deal and the rest of it. And he said he might just get us 20 goals from the 9, and then that's all you need. You just need someone to go play every league game when it matters and get you the goals. And he might just do it. You might have to accept this also, though. When we looked at Isaac, one of our big worries about him was that off the ball, he didn't do a lot either, right? We looked at the metrics for Isaac. He doesn't do a lot of the stuff that we would ask him forward to do. So this is almost like a backup signing for if we were going to go for Isaac, which we're not going to. So rather than the Alvarez type forward, this is not an Alvarez type forward. I could see the logic in that for that price point as well, and I'm sure the agent will work in our favour and maybe even get us a better deal. You never know.
Yeah. And I get it, people. It is what you define as a Moneyball signing. It might be a value signing. Maybe not the sexiest, but we'll see if anything develops with this in window 2. So that is Gonçalo Ramos. We're going to look at another striker. And I mean, this one, Bart, Viktor Gyökeres, almost has been we know, been banging them in for fun in Portugal. And a lot of people were almost expecting Viktor Gyökeres to almost, I suppose you'd say, have his pick of moves across Europe. A lot of people thought all the big clubs in. There's a lot of Liverpool fans, and it's clear Liverpool have looked at him as all the big clubs have. We're thinking, yeah, he'd be the one for a good price, played in England before, had that experience, etc., etc. But maybe this is a bit of a loaded question for you right now. As it stands, it does seem that every big club has looked at him or linked with him. There's no doubts about that at all. But every big club seems to be passing up, you'd almost say, on Viktor Gyökeres or not making the move for Viktor Gyökeres. So I suppose in these stats is to find out, is there a why for that or are we missing something?
Yeah, I think, you and I were chatting about this, and I think there is some stuff to like in the stats, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there are a few red flags there which we can look at. Some are statistical and some are behaviour from a club. But if you just we'll start with the minutes, right? So he's got playing time. So this is club collapse. This is all competitions for the clubs he's played for. He has done he'll finish the season at 3-4. 3,400, 3,500. He did 4,000 minutes in the Championship. Poor lad. Or for Coventry, whenever. That must be low, I don't actually. But yeah, so he's consistently played twice a week at a high level, right? So you can tick that off in terms of can he do the minutes that we're going to require him to do. He has consistently had a positive impact on the teams he's played for, XG. All right, this is all green here. And in terms of the points total, the team success. So he is a positive impact on the teams he plays for when he plays. All right. If we look at, just try to look defensive actions like that, but goal and shot creation, total per 90, club collapse. So he is shot creation around 4.73. So he's generally been about 4 with shot creating actions for the last 3 seasons, which includes one at Coventry. Goal creating actions, he has actually increased over the previous time. Now, you probably expect that. No disrespect for any Coventry City fans who are watching, but I can't imagine you're creating the best opportunities for a lad. Yeah. Whereas when you go to Sporting, again, one of the best 2 sides in the league, going to create opportunities, right? So, and that's actually pivoting up as well. If you look at his whole career there, 0.24, 0.3, 0.47, 0.66, 0.84. It's a trend of going up, right?
Yeah.
So there are some positives, right? Passes, let's have a look at what he's actually doing. So he, 3 balls, not really his game, should we say. Switches, not his game. Crosses, less than 1 a game. So he seems to be a bit more of a down the middle, not doing a lot elsewhere, which, okay, that's, as we just said, Ramos will do that for you. This guy seems to be able to do it as well. All right. In terms of his distances, passing wise, per 90. So that is short passes. That is 13 short passes attempted per game, which is a high percentage rate, but that's a very low volume. Medium 5.2. So again, that's a low volume, good completion rate. Long, it's just not his game. It's less than 1 pass a game that's long, right? So you're starting to get a feel for what he is. If we go up to shots, though, as people want to look at that. Shots on target, total per 90. So he takes just under 2 shots per target per game, which is good. And that has also been trending upwards. 0.19, 0.53, 0.98. Total shots as well has been going upwards from 2.98, 3.13, 3.94. So there's some things there to look at where things are on the upward trend, to we say. If we just go back one and get his comparison matrix up. So overall, looking at his percentiles though, so as predicted, defensively, not a lot going on there. That's being kind. Yeah, he's worse than Ramos, bar the fact that this guy does the interception stuff, which is part of what we want forward to do rather than tackle. So let's switch those two around. But the thing that you can take caveat, and you can say that this guy is probably better than Ramos, potentially, please don't shoot me. But in between the boxes here, he has a lot of green. Progressive passes received, 99. Now that could be the way they play, as we said, with Ramos. PSG very dominant, play on one half the pitch, difficult to get that. Whereas here, a little bit different, could stretch play a bit more. Progressive carries the ball, progressive passes, makes progressive passes when he does do them for a forward. Pass completion, 74. As I said, that's good for a forward. Passes attempted is in the just below 80th percentile. It's not brilliant. I mean, our forwards will do more than that, but it's not bad, right? But if you look at the actual stuff that we'd be buying him for, non-penalty goals, 99th percentile. Non-penalty XG, 99th percentile. Shots, 4 a game, 99th percentile. Assists, 91st. Expected goals and assists, 96th. 99th percentile. Shot creating action, 99th percentile. There's a lot to like about that. All right, there's a lot to like there. If you compare him to our man, Jota is better at the defensive side of the game. We've already said that. Jota is very good at the off-ball work. He's had 3-4 years of working under Klopp. He knows how to do that. But everything else, Gyökeres is better than Jota this season. It is important to know the league conversion, which, as I said earlier, is 0.82. So you'd have to knock a bit off those stats to bring him over. But still, if you wanted to compare him to Ramos, Gyökeres is probably more of an all-rounder forward when compared to Ramos. I think that's fair to say. If we look at his dashboard, so the good thing for me when you look at Gyökeres is he's in that area there. Zone 14, linked in by play, linked by players. If you look at him up to first sub, there's a lot of links from the left side, a lot of links from the 8s into him, right? So they're finding him out well. Yes, Sporting are a dominant team. I 100% get that, right? But he's still making himself available in the area we would want our forward to do. He's involved in patches, a bit like Ramos, to be fair. It's sort of like heavily, nothing, heavy, nothing like that. He equally isn't involved that much in terms of the giving the passes. He's happy to receive in zone 14, but not giving. If we look at his dashboard, pretty much bang on for all the metrics, extremely high for shot percentage and duels in aerials, but what do you expect? If we look at threat, so this is, I can manage to break down with him where he creates his threat from, and he's creating in the central areas here. So that is also an indication of what he's doing. So 43% of his threat he created for the team was in zone 14, 32% of the zone just behind that, which is okay. If we look at what did he do, he stopped 100% of the threat going the other way as well, which is a pleasing element. If you look at what did he do, he created, only created 2% of the team's EBB though, so you got to be fair. In terms of off ball, very heavy around where the opposition 6 would be. So that equates to around 11% of the team's defensive actions he was doing in that zone 14 area, which again is not something to be sniffed at. His shot map, his heat map, essentially in the goal. I like that, a bit like Ramos as well. And basically has XG from regular play and fast breaks. No set pieces there involved, right? If you look at his shots, he took 5 on in this game, and they're all in the box. And bar 1, they're all in the width of the goal. And they are all average XG per shot is 0.27, which is above a big chance. So there's a lot for me. I know when you watch him, there's some physical things like he doesn't turn well. He seems to have a bit of an awkward style. People talk about he's not, but. And this is where it's really important to do the watching and the rest of it, which they will do. And probably where the other clubs are is the other clubs would have looked at this and gone, wow, this guy's good. Let's go and have a look at him. Done the video, and that's where they've gone, no, I don't think this is quite going to work in the Premier League. So, yes, I think statistically, there is some things to like about Gyökeres, yeah. But when you watch him live and you do the scouting in terms of that sense, you could probably see why he isn't necessarily deemed not suitable for Premier League or a top level side. He's done it. He did okay at Coventry, didn't he? But he got a move to Sporting. He didn't get a move to the Premier League. Right. So that's probably statistically. There are some things I like about him: the position he takes up, the threat he creates, the shot creating actions, all those elements that, to be fair to him, are on paper better than Ramos. But when you add that in, the elements that the club will do and other clubs will have done, you can probably make a case for why they're not going for him, and why, if loads of clubs have turned him down, you've got to be a pretty brave club to go, yeah, right, I'll pay you the money for it. Do you know what I mean? If all the other top clubs have turned him down.
Yeah, and it's a completely fair shout. And I suppose a bit of detail we got from analysts that I want to put to you as well, because you mentioned there around his turning. In fact, one analyst we spoke to says he turns like a tank and it's awkward. That's not his, the quick spin. That's not his game. It is more of a brute force. There's power side to his game more than anything. So that's one. The other thing that a lot are mentioning, 27 years old. So you think we mentioned Ramos, that, 4 years younger there, 27 years old. So, it feels like now or never. And if we're honest, that's older than a lot of clubs want to buy. We know that comes into the mix, doesn't it, as well at the same time. And then this was important that a few other analysts have shouted out that when we talk about his FB ref profile, which looks great, it's important probably just to drag the screen down a little bit. You mentioned a couple of things there, Bart, that Portuguese differential, and we know we've all got Nunes PTSD on those numbers and that type of thing. And also, if you look at the players that he's being compared to on his FB ref, it definitely isn't top-level forwards. We're talking players at Inter Miami, Orlando City, Ghent and Boca Juniors. No disrespect to any of those, but we are 100% not talking about football's elite or the top European dogs as well at the same time. So that comes into it. Do you think almost that's just defining him a little bit? And maybe you could say it's unlucky because of those circumstances, possibly. Who knows? But the age, the league, the style, maybe the lack of quick change of footwork, if you want to call it that, despite the bundles and bundles of goals, do you think that is ultimately why the big teams are just going, not for me right now?
Yeah, I don't know what the fee is, and that's my bad. I should be keeping up with that a bit more. But I would imagine if that's anywhere near, like, I don't know, 70, 80 million for a 27-year-old, I think that, with those profiles, as you said, 100%, that's why a lot of clubs are going, no, you're all right. I think they'd much rather buy a TK for like another 20 million. And he's at the other end of his career, and they think they can mold him into what they want, rather than this guy is going to give you what he's doing right now. You're not going to be able to change a 27, 28-year-old. He's just going to come in, do exactly what he's been doing for the past 4 seasons. If you're happy with that, cool. You fill your boots. But if you want him to do something else, you're not going to be able to do that with him, right? And you're paying a lot of money for someone who's going to probably come in towards twilight peak years, right? So this is his peak. This is probably about as good as he's going to get. We've seen his numbers have been doing that, and that's fine. And he probably maintain that, and then he'll start to come off again. And what you don't want to be doing is giving him a 4 or 5 year contract, takes him to 30, 31, and he's on the back end of that. His movement's even worse. He loses the bit of power, maybe, those kind of things, and you're stuck with a player that, you start with that player already. So I would 100% the age thing, and the fact that stylistically and everything else, and technically probably isn't fit into what their clubs want.
And there you go, ladies and gents. That isn't being derogatory to Viktor Gyökeres. I mean, you can see he's absolutely banged in the goals beyond belief for Sporting, and he's got a good few in the Champions League as well. So there's zero debate about that. But maybe just an insight as to why a lot of the big clubs are not pulling the trigger. It's interesting. There are a few reports, just brought them up here on the price point that you mentioned, suggestions that Gyökeres is annoyed with Sporting because the original talk was around 55 to 60, but in the market they are currently asking for 70 plus. That's the suggestion for a 27-year-old. Maybe that's what it comes down to. But we shall see if anything happens with Gyökeres. And now, Bart, we're going to stick with his teammate, but we're going to go with a different agent, Ousmane Diomande. Now, just on this, people will get a few things out the system. He has been the one that's most recently linked with being a potential Konate replacement, because we all wait with bated breath on Konate's contract and what's going to happen. He's young. He's 21, so that comes into the mix as well. A few of you, I'm sure, in the chat panel, it's going to come up, going to be shouting AFCON in January. So I know that comes into the mix at the same time. But for this, there really ain't any centre-back names sticking around, are they? Diomande seems the only one that's linked to any noteworthy reports at the moment. So I am intrigued to say, you'd feel it might be a bit of a project, but I don't know if he's ready now. But what did the stats say about Diomande right now?
So we go playing time, right? Bearing in mind the kid, and he is a kid, he's 21, right? 21, 188 days. So he's this side of 21, yeah? He's played over 3,000 minutes for a 21-year-old. There is some data out there that if you do that too often, you will have a massive fall off, right? So just to be wary of that. If you play too many minutes at that age without graduated improvements, you can have a big fall off, but that's mainly in forwards. So, but I just putting that out there. In terms of addition to the team, bit of a weird one here, because in terms of XG per 90 plus or minus, he's adding on, but when he's on off, he's actually, they decrease. But he's a defender, so you might expect that, but that's still a bit odd. You look at team success as well. On off, it actually get worse when he's on the pitch. It's a bit of a strange mix there in what is happening with him as a player. So we'll just park that in a kind of a kid kind of a territory at the moment. If you look at aerials, you and I always talk about that for centre halves. 70, just below 70 this season. So in terms of aerial ability, he's probably one of the better ones we've profiled actually for a while. Maybe the lad at Borussia Dortmund who did his knee. It's the only one I can remember recently who had a higher aerial win rate than this lad. So that's a good thing to have for a centre half. What's he doing in possession? Carrying the ball? No, not so much. Take on touches. Not defensive third and middle third is where he's having it. So he's not really progressing the ball. He's not looking to do anything else with it apart from being in his defensive areas, which, okay, centre half, that's fine. If you look at, not defensive action, I'm just going to look at pass types, which is up here. If we look at his short, medium, long, so short game, he completes at 94%. He attempted about 20 passes a game, so that's good. Medium, 96. Again, double the amount of short. That's better for a centre half. Long, he's picked a couple of pings in the back pocket, just short of 6 a game with a 73 pass completion. So a good range. And you need your centre halves to be able to play that ball, right? You need them to be able to do that. Otherwise, we won't be able to build from the back. I'm not saying he's going to be a Franz Beckenbauer, but he seems to have got a range of passing on him, which is good. Not what I'm looking at shooting because he is a centre back. So if we go back to our usual, we look at a lovely percentage. So defensively, I have to be honest, I would have expected it to be slightly better. Aerials, 71st percentile. Okay, good. Happy with that. We're okay with that. Blocks and clearances. The blocks maybe not. We want our fullbacks to be doing that. So, okay, we can deal with that. And clearances, he's playing for a dominant side. You'd expect them not to do a lot of that. So that's fine. Interceptions, 50 percentile, and tackles, 40th. So he's not tackling, which again, we didn't really want our centre halves doing, but you'd still want a little bit more interception. So, some interesting defensive stats. But the key one there that they definitely will be looking at is aerials. That's just something that we did today. So touch in the penalty box. He actually has quite a 96 percentile, so it's nearly 2 a game for a centre half, which is quite interesting. Doesn't pass it, as we said, not progressive passer, not a progressive carrier. Doesn't take players on, doesn't receive the ball progressively, but he's happy to make a pass. So his pass attempted 96 percentile and his pass completion is 90th percentile. So he passes the football. He's just not going to give you very often the splitting passes that Van Dijk can do. Which, to be honest with you, if Van Dijk's doing that, you don't need your other lad doing that. As long as your other lad finds the other players, you're okay, right? It's a combination. All right.
And they're high percentages as well. So likely.
Just able to find Mac, find our 6, find Mo. That's fine. Van Dijk can do all your long switches and your diags and the rest of it. That's absolutely fine. We don't normally judge a centre half by stuff in the box, but shot creating actions 85th percentile, non-penalty goals 81st, and shots total 97 for a centre half. So clearly goes up set plays and is a threat, should we say? Comparing him, I don't know. I've got Konate now, which is poor from me. There we go. So comparing him to Konate, lots of similarities. Not going to lie to you. The red is Konate for those who are watching it back. So Konate's got more assists, which might shock you, given that Konate isn't known for his assists, or tells you what you need to know about Diomande. But in terms of the passing wise, Diomande is better than Konate. Okay, that's good. He's a bit higher. Touches and percentage dribblers tackled, he's better. But Konate scored more goals, but everything else is kind of the same sort of shape. So they could be profiling something very similar to Konate. You do have to take into account Portuguese tax. Same applies to defenders as a forward, so 0.82, so a little bit different. We look at his dashboard. He plays in the centre for Sporting. I was looking up, particularly in this game. So he's controlling these areas here. If you look at his the network around him in terms of passing, that's short. The only long ones are out to that's a medium pass out to one of the 6, which is an 8 for them. But there aren't many really long passes from him. Okay, but that's fine. They're all accurate. They're all kind of a medium level of threat, so that's fine. In terms of where he is, it doesn't really do a lot of the passes into zone 14 and half spaces. That's fine. You'd expect that. He's involved in every level of chain, which is good. Right. So he's there to help recycle. He's there for a short, sharp start of attack and everything in between. So that's some good stuff to be seen from his ability on the ball, which, let's be frank here, we need our defenders to be able to play football, right? Konate can play football. They can't just be a brute force. Kyriakos, who came in 1 year, wasn't it? Who just a defender. If you look at percentage of EPV, now he's created here nearly 5% of the team's EPV, which is not bad for centre half, right? That's pretty good, really. What's he doing? What's he stopping the other way? Stopped 67%, which is a little bit disappointing, given that EBU finished our season as the highest ranked defender for stopping EPV at 90%. So he'd be a notch down from that, should we say? Where does he create threat though? And this is his area here. So that is 59% of his threat created from the middle 2 zones, which if you look at the total for Sporting for this game, he's in and around 6, maybe bordering on between 6 and 10% for the team from a central area, right? So that would be good. That's not a bad place to be, should we say? In terms of defensive actions, you'll see he's drifting out to the left half space. He's starting places in the middle, but he drifts out to left, which means he takes care of about 9% of his team's defensive actions in his area. And then I should imagine when he's trapped over here, it's an emergency, which is about 1%. So XG, you're not going to expect him to show up. I think he took one shot. There you go. And we'll find out where that shot was from. I know he didn't take any shots. So there you go. I think overall, a profile similar to Konate, it's fair to say. You have to take the La Liga tax in, not La Liga, sorry, the Superliga in Portugal tax into account. His passing looks to be up to the level we required, although more safer, not going to give you the high end stuff. Has had some joy in the penalty box on set plays. I would imagine that's how he's got the shot connections high. And generally positionally plays in the middle, so used to a 3, which might be not a problem, but just something to consider when he's going to come and play in a 2. So but overall, 21. You're going to tell me what the fee is, but could be interesting. He's not the guy who's just gone to Real Madrid, like Bournemouth, right? Yeah, that's different level. But could be interesting.
Yeah, it does feel different to Huijsen that Diomande, when you look at him, has those more, I'd call it behemoth-like tendencies, like Konate, as in powerful in the air, not going to progress it too well, but retains it very well, moves it around. So those are a couple of things to consider. The age, very young, similar to Huijsen at the same time as well. Probably the big thing, and you mentioned fee there, because there's conflicting reports, because one thing that's unanimous, the release clause for Diomande seems to be 67 million, but a lot of the reports say that, and again, there's other Premier League clubs, Chelsea, Arsenal, even Crystal Palace have come up recently. The talk is around the £51 million mark. If you look at a few reports, they're out there as well. And again, as we know, and it's not being derogatory, the Portuguese clubs, they like to put in a good release clause, fatten these players up, try and sell them for that max release clause. It's then how close can they get to that element as well. Got to mention it again. AFCON would be in the mix for this player as well. It's difficult at the moment because there's not a lot of, I think, good centre-halves on the market. There's not a lot that you can get your hands on. And I think Huijsen would have been more Bart if he didn't have the release clause. I think that 50 million release clause was why Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea and Real Madrid were ultimately in the end. So if it was around the 50 million-ish mark, now I'm hoping, and obviously we're all hoping that Konate renews, but we've got a big concern about this, and quite rightly. Thoughts if Diomande was the one they steered into to come in this summer?
It looks like he's a very similar profile to Konate, right? But a younger version. His aerial ability, I mean, that's kind of where we need it to be, right? You fundamentally have to defend both boxes. You have to defend your own box, and you have to be threat there, and you have to pass the football. So he looks to be able to do that. For 50 million quid for a centre half who's played in Europe, played Champions League. I don't think that's too bad. I think he was injured the last game for Sporting or came off 25 minutes. So you'd have to check his injury record, whether that was going forward. I was just comparing him with another player I looked at, which is Gay at Palace. A very different player, actually, Gay. But yeah, I think the problem is, like you've alluded to, the forwards, there's not a lot of quality forwards out there, right? And I actually don't think there's a lot of centre halves at the price point we want to pay.
Yeah,
you know, if you like, I've listened to you the other day with Trevor, and you were saying, if we have to end up selling Konate, it's not our market, because clubs know that we want to get rid of him because he's not signed a contract, right? So you're unlikely to get the top value money that you should be getting for Konate. So you then got to replace Konate with someone near the same ability but for less money. So that's where Diomande signing makes a lot of sense, because you're taking a gamble that you could upscale his performance levels.
Yeah.
I'm a bit nervous about him starting for us. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
But I haven't got the physical data in terms of how quick he is, because that would be something else. We knew about Huyson. We knew that he wasn't slow. Because Konaté's ability to cover ground is phenomenal and helps us out in that end. So yeah, does he profile like Konaté? Yes. Does he give us the aerial presence? Yes. Could he be a big physical presence defensively? Sure. It's just whether I think it'd probably be a bit risky. I think it'd be a risk, but then you're probably going to get a risk with anyone replacing Konaté because he's had a phenomenal season. So yeah, unless you want to go and blow a lot of money on it, I think you might have to accept a lower level. He's better than Kwanzaa, which is a bit harsh on that, but I'm just saying it's probably better. So yeah, I think for me, he profiles like Konaté. I could see why they would pay it. Yeah, let's hope we don't have to pay it.
And if we look, people, I'm just looking here on the UEFA site, it does have his top speed in the Champions League of 34.29 km/h. So not too dissimilar to Huyson in that regard from a pure speed. And in terms of injury as well, he missed 4 games, it says, on Transfermarkt for Sporting. So not bad overall. Again, though, it's a bit like Bart's. Doesn't mean it's not, we don't talk in terms of just good or bad because we're not 12 years old here, but there's a fair few things to consider around Diomande, people. And there we go. Ramos could be a money ball. It might not get everyone's headlines, but I wouldn't dismiss it straight away. Gyökeres, many of you will be shouting like in the chat panel about like, this is the one. However, there are a few red flags. There are a few things to consider, as we hopefully outlined on this. And Diomande, and talented centre-half, aerially dominant as well, profiles very much like Konaté. However, are we wanting to spend anywhere between 50-odd to 67 million release clause? That's probably a different discussion altogether that the people with the laptops will be having. But there we go, ladies and gents. 3 more. We'll see if anything develops with these in transfer window 2. Now that transfer window 1, if we want to call it that, has now shut. All it leaves me to say as ever is Bart, for the time, the analysis, for giving us those thoughts. It is much appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield.